The lights go out, not just in your house, everywhere. The hum of civilization, that constant electrical heartbeat you've lived with your entire life, flatlines in an instant. No hospitals running surgeries, no water being pumped to your faucet, no trucks delivering food to empty grocery stores. Within 72 hours, your neighbors will be breaking into each other's homes. Within a week, the streets will belong to whoever has the weapons and the will to use them. This isn't fear-mongering, this is physics. This is what happens when the grid dies and society as thin veneer of order evaporates like morning dew under a blowtorch. Most people will die in the first month. Not from violence, though plenty will, not from disease, though that's coming. They'll die from exhaustion, from trying to do everything at once, from spreading their limited resources so thin that they end up with nothing that actually works. They'll die because they never understood the most fundamental law of catastrophic survival, the 80-20th rule. And if you don't master this principle right now, you'll be among them. Here's the brutal truth, backed by disaster analytics and behavioral psychology. In any SHTF scenario, 80% of your survival success comes from just 20% of your preparations. This isn't motivational nonsense. This is Pareto's principle applied to life and death. The Italian economist discovered it studying wealth distribution. But preppers who've actually lived through societal collapse, Bosnia, Venezuela, Argentina's economic meltdown, they'll tell you it applies even more ruthlessly to survival. The question isn't whether you should prepare. The question is, are you preparing the right 20%? Or are you wasting precious time, money, and mental energy on the 80% of stuff that won't matter when the world falls apart? Let's talk about water first, because you'll be dead from dehydration long before you starve. Most preppers obsess over storing hundreds of gallons, building elaborate rainwater collection systems, investing in expensive filtration setups. That's the 80%. Here's the 20% that actually saves your life. Know where the water is in your environment right now, and have one reliable method to make it safe. Your hot water heater holds 40 to 50 gallons. Your toilet tank has another 5. If you live in a city, there's a forgotten maintenance access point to the water main within 3 blocks of your home. Find it now, not when you're desperate. For purification, forget the $100 Berkey filter. Bleach, 8 drops of unscented household bleach per gallon. Wait 30 minutes. Cost, $3. Shelf life, indefinitely if stored properly. Will it handle everything? No. Will it keep you alive when everyone else is fighting over bottled water? Absolutely. This is about triage, not perfection. Food is where people lose their minds completely. They stockpile freeze-dried meals that cost a fortune, require water to prepare, and run out in 3 months if you're lucky. The 20% approach. Calories per dollar, calories per cubic foot, and zero preparation required. Rice and beans, yes, but specifically, white rice, not brown at stores longer. Pinto beans in 5-gallon buckets with oxygen absorbers. Cooking oil, olive oil goes rancid, but coconut oil lasts years and packs 9 calories per gram. Peanut butter in plastic jars. Honey, which literally never spoils. A 25-pound bag of rice costs $12 and provides 50,000 calories. That's 70 days of baseline survival for one person for the price of 2 restaurant meals. The people hoarding MREs are spending 20 times more for the same caloric outcome. When the trucks stop rolling and the stores are empty, skeletons picked clean, your neighbors will be trading gold jewelry for a can of beans, and you'll be sitting on a 3-month buffer because you understood the math. Security is where the 80-20th rule becomes absolutely savage. Most preppers either have nothing or they've gone full tactical fantasy camp with plate carriers and AR-15s. Both approaches get you killed. The nothing approach is obvious. The tactical approach, you've just painted a target on your back for anyone with more experience or more people. Here's the 20%. Passive deterrence and strategic invisibility. Blackout curtains, so no light escapes at night while everyone else is stumbling in darkness. That alone keeps you off the radar. A simple wooden dowel in your sliding door track. 3-inch screws in your door frame instead of the standard half-inch ones that come from the factory that has 15 minutes with a screwdriver that makes your door functionally unbreakable to a kick. A dog, any dog, even a small one, the sound of barking makes desperate people move to the next house. And one firearm you actually know how to use, kept secured and ready, but never advertised. The person broadcasting their arsenal is the person who gets targeted by groups. The person who looks poor and difficult becomes invisible. In a collapsed society, invisibility is worth more than fortification. Skills trump stuff, and this is where the principle becomes almost spiritual. You can have 1,000 pounds of supplies, but if you don't know how to ration them, negotiate with desperate people, or make hard decisions under pressure, you're just a loot drop waiting to happen. The 20% of skills that matter. Fire without matches, friction. Fire is hard, but a ferro rod costs $8 and works in the rain. Basic first aid, specifically trauma care. You don't need to be a surgeon. You need to know how to stop arterial bleeding and recognize sepsis. Navigation without GPS, not wilderness orienteering, but understanding your urban terrain. Knowing 3 different routes out of your neighborhood. understanding where the choke points are when everyone's fleeing at once. And this one's controversial but critical. The ability to say no, to turn away people you can't help, to make calculations about resource allocation that would horrify you in normal times. That's psychological hardness. That ability to operate in a moral framework that prioritizes your family's survival above abstract notions of fairness that essay skill most people do undevelop until it's too late. The mental game will break you faster than hunger or thirst. There's a phenomenon documented in every major disaster: psychological paralysis. People who had supplies, who had plans, who froze when the moment came because the reality was too overwhelming. They couldn't accept that the old world was gone, so they waited for rescue that never came, for normalcy that wasn't returning. The 20% of psychological preparation that matters. Acceptance training. Spend time now, today, genuinely imagining your life without the grid, without law enforcement, without the assumption of safety. Walk yourself through scenarios not to terrify yourself but to remove the shock factor. The survivor isn't the person who never feels fear, that's a psychopath, and they make catastrophically poor decisions. The survivor is the person who feels the fear, acknowledges it, and acts anyway because they've already mentally rehearsed the chaos. Practice making decisions under artificial stress. Give yourself 30 seconds to choose between two bad options. Train your brain to operate in triage mode, because when the moment comes, hesitation is death. Here's what nobody wants to hear. Most of your current preps are probably in the worthless 80%. That tactical backpack with 17 pockets, the solar charger for devices that won't have networks to connect to, the elaborate SHTF library of survival books you haven't read. You're optimizing for a fantasy scenario that feels good to prepare for rather than the brutal, boring reality of extended societal collapse. The 20% is water source and purification, calorie dense, storable food, passive security, 3 critical skills, and the mental framework to use them without hesitation. That's it, that's the whole game. Everything else is luxury, and luxury kills you when you're trying to carry it while running from a city that's eating itself. The final truth: you're reading this, which means you're already ahead of 95% of people who believe normalcy is permanent. But awareness without action is just anxiety with extra steps. The grid doesn't care about your good intentions. Collapse doesn't grade on a curve. When the infrastructure fails, and it will, the only question is when and how bad. The line between survivor and casualty won't be drawn by who had the most gear or the biggest bunker. It'll be drawn by who understood that survival is about ruthless prioritization, who invested in the 20% that actually matters, and who had the psychological steel to execute when everyone around them was falling apart. Master the 80-20 rule now, or become a statistic later. There is no third option.